Across centuries, farmers working heavy clay soils have always shared the same frustration. The ground cracks like pottery in the dry season, clings to boots like wet cement during the rains, and, well, refuses to let roots breathe in any weather. Entire regions struggled with it, from colonial American homesteads to medieval European farms. Yet in the middle of those struggles, an old kitchen scrap became a quiet secret that kept being rediscovered generation after generation. It wasn't exotic, expensive, or rare. It was something people tossed aside without a second thought, until necessity forced them to stoop down and truly understand what the soil was hungry for. When clay behaved like iron and crop yields dropped, this simple scrap was the material farmers used to open the soil and coax it into a friable, crumbly structure that crops could finally thrive in. Today, most people overlook it entirely, yet it still works with the same precision it did centuries ago. That scrap is crushed eggshell. Eggshell works on clay soil because it attacks the real structure problem, not the symptoms. Clay isn't just tough soil. It's soil with microscopic plate-like particles that stack tightly, squeeze out air, and lock up nutrients. Early farmers didn't describe it in scientific terms, but they knew the earth felt asleep or closed. Eggshells helped because they introduced a steady supply of calcium carbonate, the same compound found in agricultural lime. When worked into clay, this calcium neutralizes acidity, pushes soil particles apart, and encourages the formation of crumbs and channels that water and roots can move through. Historically, farmers who didn't have access to quarried lime or who couldn't afford it during hard seasons used eggshells as a slow-release soil opener. Unlike lime, which reacts rapidly, eggshells break down gently. They release calcium over months, giving clay time to reorganize its structure without shocking the system. Survivalists and wartime gardeners relied on this method precisely because it required no cash and no transport, just the continuous recycling of kitchen waste. People often assume that any organic matter will improve clay, but eggshells do something unique. While vegetable scraps soften the soil by feeding microbes, eggshells stiffen the microscopic clay plates so they stop sealing shut. This is why old homestead records mention eggshell pits dug near clay-heavy gardens. Women in 19th century kitchens collected shells in sacks, crushed them with a stone or rolling pin, and scattered them into the garden trench by trench. Over time, the calcium bonded with clay particles and helped the soil clump into loose aggregates instead of forming unbreakable clods. This explains why worm populations tend to increase in eggshell-amended clay. Worms prefer soil that holds moisture without drowning them, and their burrowing further opens the structure. Once worms arrive, the soil changes even faster. This cycle, calcium loosens clay, worms move in, organic matter circulates, was one of the oldest systems of soil renewal before commercial amendments became common. The most reliable method is slow incorporation. Start by collecting shells for several weeks or even months. Rinse them lightly to prevent odours, then just allow them to dry. Once dry, crush them into coarse grit using a stone, bottle or mortar. They do not need to be powdered completely. Historically, they rarely were. The key is creating enough surface area for the calcium to become available. Scatter handfuls of this grit across the clay bed and work it into the top 6 inches of soil. If you are rehabilitating a larger section, the trench method used by early European farmers is extremely effective. Dig a shallow trench, pour in crushed shells mixed with straw or kitchen greens, cover it with soil and continue moving across the bed. Another practical approach from wartime allotment gardening is the perimeter ring. Growers dug a ring around the planting bed and filled it with shells and soft organic scraps. One of the most valuable aspects of eggshell for clay is that it keeps improving the soil with each season. Clay that has been treated with shells holds moisture during dry spells while draining well during storms. The roots of vegetables like carrots, beans and cabbages break through the ground more easily because the soil structure has improved from the inside rather than being forced apart temporarily by tilling. Homesteaders used eggshells not for a one-time fix, but for building productive land that could support families for generations. The practice was straightforward and sustainable. Every time a household prepared a meal, the soil received another handful of long-lasting amendment. In a world where growers often reach for quick fixes, eggshells represent a piece of agricultural history that still works better than many modern products when dealing with stubborn clay. They require no money, no special handling, and no complicated knowledge. They connect today's gardeners with a lineage of farmers stretching back thousands of years who paid close attention to the relationship between minerals, microbes, and soil structure. When applied consistently, eggshells transform clay from a suffocating mass into a crumbly, root-friendly environment. The method is simple, effective, and grounded in real historical experience that has stood the test of time. If you found this guide valuable and want more content rooted in real agricultural history, soil craft, and time-tested homestead knowledge, subscribe to Farm Lab, share this video, and help others rediscover forgotten skills that still work better than most modern shortcuts.